don't know what it is about these, but something about them is just off. I can't tell what it is. Let me try something. There's no way that just worked right now. This is much better. Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Solvice. As you can tell by the title, we're doing something very different today than what I've been used to doing on this channel. I'm doing my first custom. So I'm gonna be changing the red cement 3s back from this past All-Star weekend into the black cement 3s. Now you might be asking why I would even wanna change a pair of red cement 3s into a pair of black cement 3s. And really there's a few reasons for it. And the most important one is this is my favorite sneaker of all time. And I really wish that I would have doubled up on these back in 2018 when they originally released, but I didn't. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna take a pair that honestly I really do not care for. The red cement 3s just have never been something that I've been interested in. Ever since I first saw pictures of them, I just wasn't really crazy about them. And I thought maybe once I got them in hand that might change, because that happens a lot. But still, just with them like sitting here with me right now, when I first pulled these out of the box, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I don't get it. So it's really not gonna be a heartbreak for me to paint over these. And on top of that, the shape on these is way, way, way better than the 2018 pair of black cement 3s. They really got close to the OG shape on these. If you can see, the toe on the red cements here is way slimmer. The elephant print is a lot more like low profile. The tongue is way better than on the 2018 pair. So there's really a lot of things about this shoe as far as the shape goes and the details that are better than the 2018 black cement 3s. So I figured, what the hell, let's go ahead and change the red cements into the black cements. Now, just full disclosure, this actually was not my idea. I was just kind of browsing through Reddit and I saw a pair of black cement 3s and I was like, man, I really wish I would have doubled up on those. And then down in the comments, somebody was like, why don't you just grab a pair of red cement 3s and make them black cement 3s? You probably want to grab them before they start to go up. And so I was checking StockX and GOAT, and they were really pretty reasonably priced. And then I was on Twitter, and actually Shoe Palace posted like an ad that they still had these. So I was able to cop these for retail. So it just kind of like couldn't have worked out better. So I've got these here now. And I'm really excited to do my first custom. I'm pretty nervous because I don't want to ruin them. I don't think I will. I've watched some videos on how to do this, but I wanted to show you guys how I'm going to be doing it. That way, if anybody else out there might be interested in doing the same thing, I'm going to try and do a DIY kind of like step-by-step for you guys. That way you can check it out. But before we get to the custom, if you are somebody who enjoys videos about sneakers, be it reviews or news, or I guess customs now, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers, so I am still doing my giveaway for a genuine, legit, vintage 1992 Championship Bulls t-shirt. So make sure to check the description below. I've got a link to the giveaway as well as the original video with the other rules. I've got some additional ways to get entries into the giveaway. So if you're one of my next 20-30 subscribers, you've still got a chance to get that t-shirt. And other than that, make sure to smash that like button if you're a fan of customs, if you're a fan of black cement 3s. And then down in the comments, let me know if this is something that you end up trying. And as always, I'm gonna have timestamps kind of along the way. That way, if you're looking for something specific, be it just like, you know, the materials that I use to turn these into the black cement 3s, or the actual process itself, or the end result, you can always click down in the description and you'll see all the timestamps, as well as down in the playhead below. They've actually added that to iPhone now, so whatever screen you're looking at, you can kind of just scroll along and find those different parts. All right, so with all of that out of the way, let's find out, will I turn these into black cement 3s, or will I completely f them up? All right, so let's talk about the materials and supplies you are going to need to complete this custom. The first thing you're gonna want is masking tape. So you can use a traditional paper masking tape, but I've actually gone with the Eyelets brand tape that they offer on their website. The reason I went with this tape is because it's a little bit more moldable and pliable, so you can really bend it around the details of, like, say, the midsole or the elephant print on these shoes. So that's definitely gonna come in handy. The next thing you're gonna need is either some acetone or some nail polish remover. In this case, I'm gonna be using the Eyelets brand Professional Leather Prepare and Deglazer. We're gonna be using this to take off the top protective glossy layer that's gonna be on the leather. If you paint directly on top of this, the paint is just going to flake and peel off eventually just after a few wears, so you definitely want to make sure that you take that protective coat off. And then to apply that leather prepare and deglazer or the nail polish remover, whatever you end up using, you're either going gonna want some cotton balls, or in my case, these makeup removers. They're pretty much the same thing, but this is all that I have at the house, so feel free to use either one. And then the most important thing of the entire project is gonna be our paint. So for the black leather, I'm gonna be using the Angelus brand Flat Black. And then for the red eyelets down at the front of the shoe, I'm gonna be using Angelus brand Fire Red. Now, some people have used Varsity Red, but since the 2018 pair of Black Cement 3s lists their red as Fire Red, I'm gonna go ahead and use Fire Red with these as well. And then once we've applied our paint and let it dry, we're gonna need a finisher to go on top of that paint to protect it once it's there. So I'm gonna be using the matte acrylic finisher from Angelus brand as well. That way, once the paint's on there, it's going to stay on there. I'm not gonna have to worry about it wearing off after I wear them a few times. Now, to apply the paint and the finisher, I'm gonna be using a couple different brushes. The first one is gonna be this wide slanted brush. And then the second one that I'm gonna use for the details and for the eyelets at the end, I'm gonna be using this fine pointed brush. That way I can really get in and get all the details. This brush is really gonna be helpful when I pull the masking tape off at the end and I have to go back over the edges, and also to get to those eyelets down there at the front to make those red. And then just to make this job go as quickly as possible, I am gonna be using a heat gun. In this case, it's just a hair dryer. That way I don't have to sit and wait around for the paint to dry. So the first bit of preparation that you wanna do, obviously, is to take out the laces. So we'll go ahead and get that done. All right, so now that you've got the laces out, you wanna make sure that you start to tape this shoe up. Now, when you're taping it, you have to make sure that you get tape on the entire part of the shoe that you don't want to get paint on. Anything that's next to, on this case, the red leather, just so that way, obviously, you don't want your black paint on your gray leather here on the elephant print. And you also don't want, to leave a lot of it exposed, even that's not next to the red, because as you're making your brush strokes, paint's gonna be kind of flicking off of the brush. So it's pretty easy to get paint splatter if you're not careful. So just because this is my first custom, I'm gonna take the time to tape up really the entire shoe. That way I don't have any issues with black paint and needing to remove that. It's not fun to do. This is actually the second shoe. The first shoe I've already done, and that's gonna be the first bit of footage that you see after the tape is on the shoe. But I exported some footage onto my computer and unfortunately it got lost. So I'm starting on the second shoe now. And when I was doing the first shoe, I forgot to tape up these gray eyelets here. And it's not a huge deal because I was able to use the leather preparer to get it off, but it didn't come completely off. So if that's something that you're gonna be kind of a stickler for, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist myself. So this time I'll probably put tape on the eyelets on the second shoe here. But anyway, I'll go ahead and start the taping, and since I accidentally deleted myself taping the first shoe, I'll go ahead and tape these as well on camera. That way you can kind of see the method that I was using. Now, like I said, I am going to be using the Angelus brand tape. It's nice and moldable, so it should be easy to get around the details on whatever shoe you're customizing. Make sure that you've got a pair of scissors around so that way you can cut this off because it's not easy to tear. So what I was doing that seemed to work pretty well is, like, for instance, on the midsole here, I have the shoe facing, so the high part is facing me. That way I can just kind of get the tape like as close to the edge as possible and then lay it over. And then once it's on, I was just using my fingernail. Oh, that's not gonna work over here. And I was just using my fingernail to kind of like get it as close down to where the leather meets the midsole. And that seemed to work pretty well for me. Now, you're not gonna be able to get it perfect just because, the shape on the midsole and the elephant print and everything, it's so flowing that it's really difficult to get tape, exactly on the edge, unless you really wanna take like a ton of time. This is already gonna take long enough as it is. But as you can see, it's like, nice and close to the leather and the midsole there. So that way when I'm painting, I can get as close to the midsole as possible without getting paint on there. And that seems to work out pretty well. So that's pretty much what I'm gonna be doing on the rest of the shoe here. So let's go ahead and tape up the shoe. right, so as you can see, we've got our tape over everything that we don't want to get painted. Took a very, very, very long time. And if you guys ever wanted to see what an all red Air Jordan 3 looked like, it's a pretty good look at that. But yeah, anyway, it takes forever to tape these things up, and I can't believe I've got to do an entire other shoe. Now, a lot of people take off the clear coat before they put the tape on, but once you start taking off that clear coat, the paint will actually start to run. So I'm just trying to avoid getting red paint on the cement gray elephant print. I just feel like once it starts to run, it's gonna start marking up the elephant print and like the white midsole here. So I just decided to tape it first, but I think that's kind of like at your discretion on how you want to do that. But anyway, it's time to start taking off the clear coat on the top of the paint. So let's go ahead and start doing that. All right, so again, I am going to be using the Angelus clear coat remover here, the leather preparer. This is probably, I don't know, I guess it's the best thing you can use. You can also use acetone or nail polish remover. Again, I'm going to be using the Angelus. So basically what you're going to do, just get your cotton ball, or we're using like the makeup remover type deals, whatever these are. Just get a little bit on the pad there. And then you're just gonna start rubbing. And this stuff works really quickly. I mean, as you can see, the colors are already starting to bleed. So that's why, again, I wanted to tape this up first. So let's go ahead and do the whole shoe. All right, so I think I've pretty much got that layer removed. All the leather is pretty sticky. I might hit the toe here a little bit more just to be safe, because that's kind of feeling like it was before. You really want to make sure you get that coat off, because like I said, if you don't get it off, the paint that we're going to be laying down is not going to stick. So we're ready to paint. I've got a bowl here just filled with some black paint, and again, we're going to use the angled brush. I got this straight from Angelus. Now we're gonna be doing multiple coats, and you don't want to coat these too thick or else your paint will start to run, and you don't want that. So you wanna do complete coats, but light coats, and then let them dry, and then hit them with another coat until you get the desired look that you're going for. So let's go ahead and start painting. So I think that's a pretty decent first coat. I'm actually gonna hit this with the hair dryer now so we can start the drying process for this first coat. All right, let's start drying this thing off. So after our first coat here, it's already looking pretty well covered. Obviously a few spots here and there that need to be covered better, but I'm thinking we're probably only going to need to do like 3 coats, which isn't too bad, especially since the first one didn't take so long to do. But yeah, first coat, let's go ahead and start with the second one. All right, so we've got our second coat on. This time around, I just kind of looked for spots where I could still see red and made sure to cover those up. The third coat, I think, should be our last coat. I'm gonna go ahead and paint over everything once more the third time and see how things are looking at that point. I think it should be done after the third coat. Let's dry the second coat. Second coat is dry, and it's looking pretty well covered. I mean, obviously there's places where I'm gonna have to go over with the finer brush and kind of hit along the edges. Now, unfortunately, I completely forgot to tape off the gray eyelets here, so I did get some black paint on there because I wasn't even thinking and I just started painting. On the second shoe, I'm definitely gonna tape that off so I don't get black paint on that. I'm hoping that's not too difficult to take off. I'm hoping I can just kind of hit that with a Q-tip and some of that paint remover, and hopefully that'll come off, or else I'm gonna have to find some gray paint and paint those gray. But the second coat's looking good, so I think after this third coat, we should be done, at least with the black paint on the first shoe. So I think we're done with our third and I think final coat. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with the dryer, and then we'll go ahead and finish it off with the acrylic finisher. But let's go ahead and get this dried. All right, so now that our third and final coat is dry, it is time to apply our acrylic finisher. So it's this stuff here. It gives it a non-cracking, flexible, water-resistant finish to leather. So you can use that on leather, and that's what I'm gonna be doing here. It's kind of like that top coat that we took off in the beginning before we started painting. So let's go ahead and add that here. So you just use your paintbrush. Okay, so now that we've got our acrylic finisher on here, we're gonna do the exact same thing that we've been doing with our paint, and we're gonna hit this with the blow dryer. So I don't know if you caught that there, but I just blew the acrylic finisher off the table onto the carpet. Thankfully, not all of it spilled. But yeah, just make sure you don't do that. All right, so I've hit the acrylic finisher with the hairbrush to dry it off, and I don't know, it still feels kind of sticky. I'm hoping that it's gonna dry a little bit more because I, purposefully got the matte finisher, but so you can see there it says matte up on the top, but for some reason, I don't know why that's not focusing for you guys, but anyway, this is the matte finisher, but for some reason this is still like super shiny. Looking at the hints on the side of the bottle, it does say that you can add some duller to it to make it less shiny, which I guess I didn't think I needed to do since I got the matte version of that. So I don't know, worst case scenario, maybe I'll have to get some duller and then go back over this, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit less shiny. But I'm definitely not too happy with how shiny these are. I'm really hoping that I can do something to get these a little bit duller, because that's how the 2018s that I have are, and I definitely don't like the shiny black leather. So either these will just dry a little bit more and get a little bit more matte or dull, but either way, I'm happy with the paint job so far. Now we get to take off the tape, because really the only thing left that we have to paint is gonna be the details around where the tape's at right now, and the eyelets here, which I don't really need the tape to paint the eyelets. So let's go ahead and take off the tape and see how these came out. So here it is with all the tape off. I'm actually really happy with these, just like before I even go through and get all the details, like the eyelets here and all the edges that I wasn't able to get to with the bigger brush. But yeah, so far so good. I'm really happy with the way that these are looking. They're much better than they were before, that's for sure. Pretty happy. So next what we're gonna do, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the eyelets. Actually, I've got the black paint out, so let me do the edges where I wasn't able to get them with the bigger brush, and then try and get this black paint off of this gray eyelet here, and then we'll go ahead and do the eyelets last. All right, so to get the details done, I'm gonna be using this little fine brush here that should help me get to the edges here without hitting the parts that obviously I don't wanna get paint on. right, so got all the details done that needed black. Really cannot see too much red anywhere anymore. Really the only thing left to do is hit the eyelets here on the front with the fire red, and then I'm gonna try and get the black off this gray eyelet here. But other than that, it's pretty much done with. All right, let's get going on these eyelets here. All right, so again, I am using the fire red paint from Angelus. Again, I've seen people use Varsity Red. I think it's a little bit too dark, and plus the 2018 Black Cement 3s use fire red as well. That's what's on the colorway coating, so I feel like fire red's the correct color to use, especially since the other hits on this shoe are fire red as well, the Jumpman and the liner on the back of the tongue and the insole, so we might as well match that up. Again, we're using the fine brush here just to get into those eyelets. All right, so after I got this fire red on here, it is a little bit too bright, so I'm gonna add the tiniest bit of black to the fire red here, just to make it a slight bit darker. All right, so I got my first coat of the red paint there on the eyelets. They're looking really good, but just because there's black paint underneath the red, I am gonna have to do at least one more coat. And then I splashed a little bit of red paint. So we'll do a little bit more black paint over the red that I got on the black leather there. But other than that, these are looking phenomenal. I'm super happy with the way that these are coming out so far. All right, so good news is the little bit of the leather preparer and deglazer on a Q-tip here, it's pulling this black paint off of the gray eyelids like really easily. So if you end up doing this and you get a little bit of paint on those plastic eyelets, you can just rub it off with a Q-tip with a little bit of whatever you're using, either acetone or the leather preparer from Angelus. It comes off really easily. So we're almost done here. I'm just removing this black paint off of these eyelets. I've already painted the front eyelets with the red, and they look really good. Up close, they look a little bit sloppy. I don't know if you can see that, but honestly, you have to like get right up on them to even be able to see that they're on the sloppy side, but from far away, you can't even tell. I'm honestly happy with the way that they came out. Obviously, this is my first custom, so I wasn't expecting them to be perfect. I was more upset about the black here on this gray eyelet, but like I said, this is coming out very easily. I'm trying to be careful not to get too much of this on the black paint that I want to be there. But anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. I'll check back in with you guys in a minute. All right, guys, so here it is. This is the finished product. I'm very happy with how it's come out so far. I say finished, but I am gonna go get some duller from Angelus and go back over this with some of that in the acrylic finisher, just because this is too shiny for my tastes. Some people might not really care about it, but to me, it's just a little too glossy. So I wanna make sure I do it right, since I spent money on the shoes and the supplies and everything. But overall, I mean, this is pretty much finished. If I would have had that duller in the first place, I would be done by now, but I'm really happy with how these came out. But here's the before and after. So I mean, I think I'm very happy with the way that these came out. Walking down the street, I would have no idea that these were a custom Black Cement 3. So I'm happy with the way it came out, especially being my first custom. I was expecting that I was gonna make a mess and get stuff wrong, but really these came out awesome. The worst part was getting the black on the eyelet here, and I was able to get most of that off with the leather preparer, so I'm super happy. So as you guys can see from the footage, these came out super sick. At least I think so, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so if I'm happy with the results, I think pretty much everybody else out there would be as well. There's only a few minor imperfections here and there. I got a little bit of paint up on the cement gray collar here, and a couple of other like little splashes of black where I didn't want it. But seriously, if you weren't looking at these like up close, you wouldn't even be able to tell. If somebody saw me wearing these on feet, they would not even be able to tell that they were a custom, unless you're somebody who's like familiar with the differences between the shape and the 2018 version of the Black Cement 3 and this current better version of the Jordan 3. Maybe that would be the only way you would know. But other than that, they look extremely good, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that they're a custom. So if you're wondering if this is a difficult project, I would definitely say just go ahead and do it. This is my first time and I was able to do it and felt that it was pretty simple. Now it is time consuming. For me, it took 3 days, but keep in mind I was filming. Also, the first day I ended up having to take my wife to the hospital. She has a ruptured spinal disc, so she wasn't feeling too good. So that definitely took a little bit of extra time. I had a lot of stuff going on. So I don't think it's gonna take you 3 days, but I definitely think it's a day-long project. If you're new to this and you're kind of like going at every step very carefully, it might take you a full day. So just keep that in mind. It's time consuming and tedious, but it's totally worth it if you're somebody who doesn't have a pair of Black Cement 3s already, or if you're like me and wanted a second pair so you don't feel so bad beating up the 2018 pair. I would highly, highly recommend doing this custom. It's not that difficult. Just make sure you get the supplies and follow the steps carefully, and you should be good. Now, if you enjoyed this tutorial, if you were appreciative that I went through the time of doing this and filming it, do me a huge favor, smash that like button just to let me know. In the comments, let me know if you plan on doing this to your red cement 3s. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're almost to 1,000. I want to give away this 1992 Bulls Championship t-shirt, so definitely make sure to subscribe as well. And other than that, I will catch you guys in the next video. Later.